So in this video, this is part two of the fourth lesson in section one in business studies, types of business organization. In our previous video, we were talking about the different forms of business organization in the private sector, and now we're going to be talking about the control and ownership in the public limited companies. So we are going to see the control and the ownership, how do we control things or in the public limited companies, and about the ownership in the public limited companies. So in the sole trader and the partnership, the owners have control over their business is run. They take all the decisions and try to make the business achieve the aims that they set. This is also the case in most private limited companies, which have relatively few shareholders. But when we are talking about the public limited companies, we have large amounts of shareholders. So the directors are often the majority of shareholders, so they can ensure that their decisions are passed at the meeting. So in the public limited companies, the directors, they are the majority of the shareholders. So with a public limited company, the situation is very different, or it's difficult to take decisions because we have a large number of shareholders. There are often thousands of shareholders, even millions in the case of the largest companies. So it is impossible for these people to be involved in the decision making process, although they are all invited to attend something called the annual general meeting, AGM. So let's see what this term means. An annual general meeting, it's a legal requirement for all companies. So shareholders, they may attend and vote on who they want to be on the board of directors for the coming year. So in order to make a decision, and there's a huge amount of shareholders, they vote for people to be directors, to be on the board of directors in this annual general meeting. The only decision that shareholders can have a real impact on the AGM is the election of the professional managers as company directors. So all the shareholders will, let's say, decide and will elect a professional people to be the company's director. They are given the responsibility of running the business and taking decisions instead of all the shareholders. They will pick few people to be on the board of the to be a board of directors and to make and take the decisions instead of them. They will only meet with the other shareholders at the annual AGM when they are doing a new board of directors. The directors cannot possibly control all of the business by themselves, so they appoint other managers. So we have directors, and then when they elect directors, these directors are gonna appoint other managers in order to help them, who may not be shareholders at all, to take day-to-day decisions. So the directors are going to, let's say, elect people to be managers in order to help them with the decision-making process. So the shareholders own, but the directors and managers control. Sometimes this is called the divorce between ownership and control. So uh, it means that the director and managers may run the business to meet their own objectives. This could increase status growth of the business to justify high management salaries, or reducing dividends to shareholders to pay for expansion plans. So in this part, we are going to be explaining what is meant by dividends, and please pay attention over here. So what do I mean by dividends? Dividends are payments made to shareholders from the profits after tax of the company. They are returned to shareholders for investing in the company. So all the people, their main aim when they invested in this company, in order to gain profit, in order to gain their money back. So when they invest in this business, they are waiting for something called dividends, like they are dividing the profit after tax, and after taking out the tax from the profit, dividends will be made, or will be given to these shareholders. In this table, they put all what we talked about when it comes to ownership and liability and risk in sole trader, as a sole trader, partnership, private and public limited company. So it's good for you to just read it. We have other private sector business organization. Now we're going to be talking about something called franchising. So this is now an extremely widespread form of business operation. The franchisor, a business with a product or service that does not want to sell consumers directly. Instead, they appoint franchisees to use the idea or product and to sell consumers. So a franchise is a business based upon the use of the brand names, promotional logos, trading methods of an existing successful business. The franchisee buys the license to operate this business from the franchisor. So the franchisor is going to give a license to the franchisee in order to sell their products, to use their brand name, to use their trading methods and their promotional logos. So over here, a franchisor gives the license to the franchisee in order to give him like a license and approval to use the product, services, logos, and so on. Okay, so two of the best known international examples of franchise are McDonald's restaurants and the Body Shop, because they do this kind of form of business organization, because they have franchisee all over the world. So here, miss, we are going to look at the advantages to the franchisor, the one who gives out the license. So the advantages for me as a franchisor when I give a license to a franchisee. Why do I do that? Why do I give a license to someone else to use my products and services? The first thing is the franchisee buys the license from the franchisor to use the brand name. So this buying process is going to give him money. Number two, I will give someone else to use my products and services in other countries, will allow the expansion for the franchise business is much faster than the franchisor had to finance all the outlets. So it's going to help me as a franchisor for the expansion part, and it's going to be much faster if I do it myself. I will hand it out to someone else to do it. Number three, the management of the outlets is the responsibility of the franchisee, the shared responsibility with the franchisee who got the license from the franchisor. And number four, all the products sold must be obtained from the franchisor. So as a franchisor, I'll make sure that this franchisee is selling the products of my company only. Now, the disadvantage for the franchisor is poor management of one franchised outlet could lead to bad reputation for the whole business. So if I give the license to a franchisee to use my product and services and he didn't do the management in a good way or in an efficient way, it's gonna cause me or lead my business into to have a bad reputation, and the franchisee keeps profit from the outlet. So also, just because he took the license, he also is gonna get part of the profit that he's making. Now, we are going to be talking about the franchisee, the one who takes the license. The chances of a business failure are much reduced because well-known products are being sold. So as a franchisee, the idea of failing is not going to happen because I'm using a product that is well-known. So number two, the franchisor pays for advertising. So advertising cost is being covered by the franchisor. All supplies are obtained from the central source, the franchisor. Also, I will not, as a franchisee, I will not be, let's say, worried about the supplies or the supplier, because the franchisor is going to be handling all these things. Number four, there are fewer decisions to make than with an independent business. Prices, store layout, and range of product will have been decided by the franchisor. So as a franchisee, I will not have to worry about these decisions when it comes to prices, the design, the outlet, the products, because the franchisor is the one who's going to decide. Training for staff and management is provided by the franchisor. So all the training, all the advertising, or all these decisions are being done by the franchisor, not the franchisee. And banks are often willing to lend franchisees due to relatively low risk. So because I'm using a product that is well known, international product, so the banks will not be worried about like they're gonna lend me the money, they're gonna give me a loan because it's low risk, because they know this well-known business is going to pay me back. Now we're going to be talking about the disadvantages when it comes to the franchisee. Number one, less independence than with operating a non-franchised business. So you see over here that a lot of decisions are being made by the franchisor. So I'm not very independent with my decisions. Number two, maybe unable to make decisions that would suit the local area. For example, new products that are not part of the range offered by the franchisor. So I will not be able to make decisions that I know is going to suit the local area that I'm working in. Number three, license fee must be paid for to the franchisor as and possibly percentage of the annual turnover. So also I have to pay a license fee for the franchisor in order to use his product, services, and logo, promotional tools, and all of that. Joint venture. Joint venture is where two or more businesses start a new project together, sharing capital, risk, and profit. So, a joint venture, we said, when two or even more businesses they agree to start a new project together, sharing capital, risk, and profit. These are the features or the characteristics of joint venture. So, many European companies have set a joint venture with China, with Chinese businesses, as the local manager will have good knowledge of market needs and consumers' taste. So we're not working as individual businesses. No, we are joining together and we're one business. This is joint venture. So advantages of joint venture is the part of sharing. Okay, so sharing costs, sharing risks, and local knowledge when joint venture company is already based in the country. So if a French company is joining with a Jordanian company, and they are working in Jordan, they're gonna be the benefit is having knowledge in the Jordanian market, because I'm already the person I joined with knows a lot of things about the Jordanian market. Meanwhile, when I'm talking about the disadvantages of joint venture, if the new project is successful, then the profits have to be shared. So sharing profits is not going to be this pleasant thing, because I'm not going to take the profit all for myself, because I'm going to split them up with other businesses that they joined me. So also, disagreements over important decisions might occur. So if I'm joining with another business, I might, let's say, have a disagreement, or we might disagree on specific decisions or important decisions related to the business. The two joint venture partners may have different ways of running a business because we have different cultures. So as I said in the example, like a French business and a Jordanian business, two different cultures, two different ways of managing problems, managing, let's say, the selling, buying part, and all of that. Now, Miss, we're going to be talking about business organization in the public sector, and now we're talking about the public sector that's owned by the government. So, again, they are just reminding us over here that the public sector is a business owned and controlled by the government, and the public services that this public sector is giving, or the businesses in the public sector they are offering, such as public hospitals, public schools, fire services, and government departments. So, public corporations. What is public corporation? It's a business in the public sector that is owned, controlled by the state and the government. So this means that they were once owned. Okay, so these are wholly owned by the state or central government. They are usually businesses which have been nationalized. This means that they were once owned by private individual but were purchased by the government. So this is what is meant by nationalized. So once they were owned by private individuals and now they are being purchased by the government, which is the total opposite of privatization. So private corporations are owned and, as we said, by the government, but it does not directly operate the business. Government ministries appoint board of directors who will be given the responsibility of managing business. So also there is a board of directors for the public sector or for the public businesses, and this board of directors is going to be given the responsibility of managing the public businesses. The directors are expected to run the corporation according the objectives that the government is setting, which is serving the society. Now, Advantages of public corporation. So what are the advantages of public corporation? We have four advantages. Number one, some industries are considered so important that government ownership is thought to be essential. These include water supply, electricity generation in many countries. So all the services that the citizens really need, which is like electricity and water, it's important to be ran by the government, by because government has this goal of serving the community. And number two, if industries are controlled by monopolies, because it would be wasteful to have competitors. Two sets all right. So in order to avoid monopolies, like businesses who take this, let's say, who owns this business or this industry and it's not allowing anyone to offer the same products or services. So it's better to have the government controlling these industries in order to keep the products or services, let's say, available to everyone. So, if an important business is failing and likely to collapse, the government can step in and nationalize it. So, the idea of nationalizing businesses, it's going to save a lot of businesses from failing and from collapsing. So, the government is going to step up and help these businesses. This will keep the business open and secure jobs. Important public services such as TV, radio broadcasting are often in the public sector. It's non-profitable, and they are also an important. They are important programs. Can still be available for to the public, just like the Jordanian television. Now, the disadvantages of public corporation. There are no private shareholders to insist on high profits and efficiency. The profit motive might not be as powerful as in the private sector industries. As we said, when we are talking about the public corporation, their main aim is not making profit, not making money. There are no private shareholders in the public corporation to insist on high profit and efficiency. So in the public corporation, because profit is not the main motivation, so like the having high profit and efficiency, it's not their main goal. All right. Number two, government subsidies can lead to an inefficiency, as managers will always think that the government will help them if the business makes a loss. So some businesses, they might let's say depend on the idea of, if I fail, if I'm not efficient enough, the government subsidies, they're gonna help me, or they're gonna let's say nationalize my business. And it may also be unfair to the public corporation which receives a subsidy for, but private firms in the same industry do not. So a lot of businesses, they depend on the idea that the government might help, let's say maybe money wise, maybe it's by nationalizing the business, so they will not be working in an efficient way. Number three, often there is no competition to the public corporation. No close competition to the public corporation. There is therefore a lack of incentive to increase consumers' choice, increase efficiency, and even improve customer service. So sometimes, because like there's only this one public business that's offering the service and there's no other competitors, so it might not find anything to motivate this public sector to do better, to work more, because they are depending on the idea that they are the only one who are offering this service. And number four, governments can use these businesses for political reasons. For example, to create more jobs just before an election. This prevents the public corporation being operated like other profit-making businesses. So one of the disadvantages for the public corporation, that they might be used for political reasons, like doing their services just because they have another issue, another goal, another let's say private goal or aim for the public corporation. Other public sectors enterprises, government authorities, or municipalities usually operate some trading activities. Some of these services are free to the user and they are not paid out to the local. So some of these services are free. That this is something that we must know, to the user, and they are paid out of the local taxes. So the private sector is working up is taking the money to operate from the taxes they are taking from the users, such as the services that this public sector is giving out, such as the street lighting and the public schools. Other services are charged for and expected to break even at last. When I talk about break even, which means the revenue must equals the cost. These might include street markets, swimming pools, and theaters. Some of these are being given by the government, by the public enterprises. If they do not cover their costs, a local government subsidy is usually provided in order to cut costs and reduce the burden on local taxpayers. An increasing range of services is now being privatized, so reducing the role of local government in providing goods and services. So here we must focus on two things, like the services that the public sector is offering. Sometimes they are free, and sometimes they are, let's say, charged for, at least to cover the cost. But if these public services are not being cost is not being covered, they can privatize this service, which means giving this service to a private business, okay, to reducing the role of local government providing goods and services. Thank you. That was our lesson for today.